The city of Lahore was wrapped in grey clouds that evening. The streets glistened with rainwater, and the sound of droplets tapping rooftops created a rhythm that felt both lonely and comforting. Aryan walked briskly, his laptop bag slung over his shoulder. He was returning from a long day at a software conference. At just 27, he had already earned a reputation for being sharp and reliable. But if you asked him about his personal life, he would only smile faintly. His world was small, his mother at home, his work, and a handful of books he read in his free time. He often told his mother, Ami, Shadi ka wakta yega, Abi Meri Zindaji surf calm high. And his mother would reply, half serious, half teasing, Beta, calm tumhain roti kila yega, pa Zindaji mine rang surf mohabbat lati high. That evening, Aryan didn't know that destiny had already painted the first stroke of that rang. As he crossed the old market street, he saw a girl struggling with an umbrella. The wind was ruthless, snatching it out of her hands again and again. She tried to hold her books close to her chest, but they kept slipping. Rain trickled down her hair, dampening the edges of her dupatta. Something in that sight made Aryan stop. He could have walked away, but his feet didn't listen. He stepped forward quickly, holding his own umbrella above her head. For a moment, she froze. Then she looked up. Their eyes met. It wasn't just a glance, it was as if two strangers had unknowingly been searching for each other, and suddenly, the search ended. Zara, softly, catching her breath, thank you, otherwise my books would have drowned. Aryan smiled, his voice calm but teasing. Aryan, maybe the books wanted to swim. For a split second, she stared at him, surprised at his humor. Then a laugh slipped from her lips, light and unguarded. That laugh, it felt like the rain had just turned into music. They began walking together, though neither had planned it. The street was long, the rain unending, and somehow the umbrella forced them closer. Zara, you don't seem like someone who jokes often. Aryan, smirking, and how do you know what I seem like? Zara, because you looked too serious when I first saw you. Like you carry the whole world on your shoulders. Aryan was caught off guard. She had read him so easily. Aryan, gently, and you? You seem like someone who finds stories even in raindrops. Zara, eyes lighting up, how did you know? I study literature. Everything feels like a story to me. Her voice carried a kind of innocence that made Aryan listen as if the world had nothing better to offer. She spoke about poetry, about how words could heal wounds unseen. He, who had always lived in silence, suddenly found himself wanting to hear more, wanting to memorize every word she spoke. By the time they reached the bus stop, the rain had slowed. The clouds were breaking apart, revealing a pale evening sky. Zara adjusted her books and looked at him with a smile that felt warm. Zara, I should go. Thank you for rescuing me today. Aryan nodded, but his heart resisted the goodbye. Aryan, anytime. Though I hope your books don't try to swim again. She laughed once more, her eyes holding his for a little longer than necessary. Then she stepped onto the bus, waving slightly before disappearing inside. Aryan stood still. The bus moved away, splashing puddles in its wake. Yet he didn't move. His umbrella hung loosely in his hand, forgotten. Inside him, something had shifted. It was strange, he didn't even know her name. But her laughter echoed in his heart like a melody he couldn't unhear. That night, lying in bed, he found himself staring at the ceiling. He replayed the rain, her smile, her words. His mother noticed his distracted silence at dinner. Ami, kia hua, beta? Tumage kuch koi koi lag rohi ho. Aryan, covering quickly Narin, Ami. Bas thakan hai. But deep inside, he knew. This wasn't just tiredness. Something had begun, a journey he hadn't expected, but one his heart was already restless to follow. Narrator's voice, soft, emotional. Sometimes love doesn't come with fireworks or grand announcements. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in the middle of a rain-soaked evening, when two strangers share an umbrella, and unknowingly, a piece of their hearts. The rain had ended, but for Aryan, its memory lingered. Days passed, yet his heart kept returning to that moment under the umbrella. He didn't even know her name, and still, her laughter lived in him like an echo. At work, his colleagues noticed his absent mind. During meetings, when someone asked for his opinion, he often blinked as if pulled back from another world. One evening, his mother sat beside him, holding a cup of tea. Ami, teasing Beta, Tamari ankan mein nayi roshni hai. Kia baat hai. Ayon, smiling faintly kuch pi to narin, Ami. But deep inside, he knew, something had changed forever. A week later, destiny played its next move. Ayon had gone to the city library. He often visited there to find peace in the smell of old books and the silence between shelves. As he searched for a book on software systems, his eyes landed on a familiar face. It was her. Zara. She sat by the window, lost in a novel, her lips moving slightly as though whispering the lines to herself. The late afternoon sunlight fell on her face, turning her hair into strands of gold. Ayon froze for a moment. His heart skipped, raced, and then, with a courage he didn't know he had, he walked closer. Ayon, softly, with a smile, are the books behaving this time? No swimming lessons today. Zara looked up, surprised, then amused. Her eyes sparkled with recognition. Zara, you. Umbrella Man. Ayon laughed at the title. Ayon, that's one way to remember me. And you, still carrying half a library with you. They both smiled. What began as small talk turned into a long conversation. Zara shared how she loved poetry, especially Fariz and Parveen Shaki. She believed words could heal wounds. Ayon, who had never been a man of many words, found himself listening like every syllable mattered. Zara, do you ever read poetry? Ayon, smirking, I read manuals, software manuals. Zara, playfully rolling her eyes, hopeless. Completely hopeless. Yet, her laughter softened her words. For the first time in years, Ayon felt alive in someone's company. Over the next few weeks, the library became their secret meeting place. Not planned, not promised, but somehow, they kept running into each other. Sometimes in the reading hall, sometimes by the shelves, sometimes at the little cafe next door. They talked about life, about dreams. Zara spoke about wanting to become a writer one day, to publish her own collection of poems. Zara, eyes glowing, I want people to feel less alone when they read my words. Ayon looked at her silently, thinking to himself, how can someone so young carry such depth? But as their bond grew, Zara remained careful. Whenever the conversation touched on her family, her eyes dimmed slightly, as though a curtain had been pulled. Ayon, once, gently, you never talk much about home. Why? Zara, quickly, it's nothing. Just complicated. Her tone made it clear she didn't want to go further. And Ayon, respectful of her silence, didn't push. But in his heart, a small question stayed alive. What was she hiding? One evening, as they parted outside the library, Zara paused. Zara, softly, you know. I never believed in coincidences. Maybe, some meetings are written long before they happen. Ayon's chest tightened at her words. He wanted to say something, to confess how much she already meant to him. But before he could speak, Zara smiled and waved goodbye, disappearing into the evening crowd. That night, Ayon couldn't sleep. He replayed her words again and again. Some meetings are written long before they happen. Was she hinting at something? Or was he just imagining it? As he lay awake, one thing became certain. Zara was no longer just a passing memory from a rainy evening. She was becoming part of his life. But what he didn't know was that Zara carried secrets, shadows of her family, responsibilities, and fears that could one day test the very foundation of their bond. Narrator's voice, gentle, suspenseful. In love's journey, beginnings often feel like magic. But behind every smile, sometimes lies a story untold, a truth waiting to be revealed. It had been nearly 2 months since Ayon and Zara's first meeting in the rain. What started as chance encounters had now become something deeper, something unspoken but undeniable. Ayon found himself waiting for the library evenings, counting hours until he could see her again. Zara too, though careful with her words, had grown used to his presence. The way he listened, the way he never judged, the way his silences often spoke more than words. One night, Ayon sat on his balcony, the city lights blinking in the distance. His phone buzzed. A message. Zara, are you awake? He smiled instantly. Ayon, yes. Tumby. Zara couldn't sleep. Sometimes thoughts are louder than the night. Ion stared at her text, his heart racing. Then, unexpectedly, his phone rang. Zara was calling. Ion, picking up, softly hello. Zara, hesitant I just needed to hear a voice. Silence feels heavy tonight. Her words touched something in him. He leaned back, letting his voice soften. Ion, then let me share the silence with you. For a while, neither spoke. Only the sound of distant traffic filled the line. Yet, in that silence, both felt a strange comfort, as if distance had melted, as if they were sitting side by side under the same sky. Slowly, Zara began to speak. She told him about her childhood dreams of writing, of how words became her friends when life felt lonely. She confessed she often felt trapped between her ambitions and her family's expectations. Zara, quietly sometimes, Ion, I feel like I'm living two lives. One for myself, and one for everyone else. Ion closed his eyes, listening. He wanted to take that pain away, to tell her she wasn't alone anymore. Ion, gently maybe, the world forces us into roles. But in your words, in your poems, you are free. And Zara, freedom suits you. There was a silence on the other end. Then he heard her whisper, almost like a secret slipping out unintentionally. Zara, I wish you were part of both my lives. Ion's heart skipped. He sat up straight, his pulse racing. Did she mean what he thought she meant? That night, after the call ended, Ion couldn't sleep. He kept hearing her voice, her words. Something inside him refused to stay silent any longer. He had to tell her. The next evening, at their usual spot in the library cafe, Ion sat across from her. His tea grew cold as he searched for courage. Zara noticed his distracted state. Zara, playfully, you look like you're carrying the whole world again. Software bugs haunting you. Ion shook his head. He took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. Ion, soft but firm Zara, Muj Tumsek Bart Kenny High. She tilted her head, curious. Zara, Kaisi Bart. His eyes locked onto hers. For once, he didn't hide behind jokes or silences. Ion, since the day we met, since that rain, I haven't been the same. Zara, I think I've fallen for you. The words hung in the air, heavy and fragile. Zara froze, her smile fading. Her eyes widened, and she looked down at her cup. Zara, whispering Ion. He leaned forward, desperate to read her silence. Ion, hurriedly, I don't expect anything. I just couldn't keep it inside anymore. You're in my thoughts, in my prayers, in every moment of my day. That's all I know. For a moment, Zara's eyes glistened. It was clear his words had touched her. But then, just as quickly, she pulled back into herself. Zara, soft, conflicted, you shouldn't say such things, Ion. My life isn't simple. Her words struck him like cold rain. Ion, confused, what do you mean? Zara, forcing a smile, some stories are too complicated to write. Maybe mine is one of them. She stood up, gathering her books. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. Zara, I should go. It's late. Before he could stop her, she walked away, leaving Ion sitting alone, his heart heavy with questions. That night, Zara lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She whispered to herself. Zara, to herself, why do you make it so hard, Ion? Why did you have to say it, when my heart already knows? Narrator's voice, soft, emotional. Love is brave, but hearts are fragile. When feelings are confessed, joy and fear collide. Sometimes the heart wants to run forward, but the past pulls it back. Days turned into weeks, and though Zara had tried to pull away after Ion's confession, life had other plans. Somehow, their paths kept crossing, at the library, at the small cafe nearby, even once at a book exhibition. It was as if destiny refused to let them part. And slowly, gently, Zara stopped resisting. She never openly admitted her feelings, but in her eyes, in her laughter, in the way she lingered around him longer than necessary, Ion found his answer. Their days began to change color. Sometimes, they sat in the cafe for hours, Zara reading poetry out loud while Ayon pretended to complain. Zara, smiling, reading. Tame to kushbuan ka safarban gaya. Isn't it beautiful? Ayon, mock serious hem. I don't understand why people waste time writing this when they could write about networking systems. Zara, laughing hopeless. But admit it, you like listening. Ayon, smiling softly, I like listening to you. Zara's cheeks flushed, and she quickly hid behind her book. Other times, they strolled through the park, Zara pointing out random things, an old couple holding hands, children chasing kites, the colors of the sunset. Zara, do you ever notice how ordinary things become extraordinary when you actually stop and look? Ayon, watching her, not the sunset. Some things become extraordinary just by being near you. Zara turned her face away, but a smile curved her lips. Love, in its purest form, had entered their lives. It wasn't grand declarations or expensive gifts, it was in the way Zara's dupatta brushed Ayon's hand by accident, the way their laughter filled empty streets, the way silence between them felt like music. For Ayon, every moment was a miracle. He often caught himself staring at her when she wasn't looking, memorizing every detail, the curve of her smile, the sparkle in her eyes, the way she chewed her lip when nervous. For Zara, Ayon became her safe place. In his presence, her worries felt lighter. Yet, deep inside, she still carried the weight of her family, their expectations, their rules. But for now, she let herself breathe. She let herself live. One evening, as they sat by the riverside, the city lights reflecting on the water, Zara suddenly grew quiet. Ayon, gently kia sok rahiho. Zara, softly kabi lagta hai, yes sabek kwab hai. And I'm afraid one day I'll wake up, and it'll all disappear. Ayon's chest tightened. He turned to her, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Ayon, then let me promise you something. Agar yer kwab hai, to main duakata hun kutum kabi na jagogo. Zara looked at him, eyes shimmering, but instead of answering, she smiled faintly and leaned her head on his shoulder. For Ayon, that silent gesture was worth more than 1,000 words. But love is never untouched by the world. At home, Zara's father had begun to notice changes. The late evenings, the hidden smiles, the way she guarded her phone. One night at dinner, his tone was sharp. Zara's father, Tamari dosti kisk sath hai arjkal? Ha wokt muskarati reti ho, kia bart hai. Zara lowered her eyes, her spoon trembling slightly. Zara, bas, dostun kusath. Her father's eyes narrowed, suspicion growing in his silence. The innocence of their love was like a delicate flower, beautiful, fragile, and now, under the threat of a storm. Narrator's voice, soft, foreshadowing. Love, in its earliest days, feels like a garden untouched by sorrow. But even the most beautiful gardens cannot escape the winds of reality. And soon, shadows would creep into Ayon and Zara's paradise. Love, no matter how pure, is delicate. A single doubt can shake it, a single silence can wound it. And for Ayon and Zara, that test came quietly, disguised as something ordinary. It was a Saturday evening. Ayon had gone to the library cafe, hoping Zara would arrive soon. He ordered tea, placed her favorite chocolate pastry on the table, and waited with the restless joy of a man in love. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Still, no sign of Zara. He called her. No answer. He texted. No reply. His heart grew heavier with every passing minute. Finally, as he stepped out into the street, his eyes froze. Across the road, Zara was walking, beside a young man. He carried a bag of groceries while Zara held a small stack of notebooks. They were talking, laughing. The way Zara smiled at him pierced Ayon's heart like a blade. For a moment, Ayon couldn't breathe. He stood still in the drizzle, his tea turning cold in his hand. Who was he? Why hadn't Zara mentioned him? Jealousy, sharp and unfamiliar, rose inside him. He could have called out her name, but instead, he turned away, his heart sinking under the weight of doubt. That night, Zara's phone buzzed with a message. Ayon, I waited for you today. You didn't come. She read it, biting her lip. Then she typed back quickly. Zara, sorry. Got busy with family. Her reply was simple. Too simple. For Ion, it felt like a wall had been built between them. He didn't ask about the man he saw. He didn't ask anything at all. But in his silence, questions burned. The next day, Zara sat in her room, restless. She had wanted to tell him about her cousin, about how he had insisted on walking her home after shopping. But something inside her stopped her. Why does it feel like he won't believe me? Why does it scare me to explain? Instead of calling Ion, she picked up a pen and poured her heart into a letter. Ion. Sometimes I feel like I can't say everything I want to. My life is tangled in responsibilities, in fears I don't even have words for. But please, trust me when I say, you're the only peace I have. Don't let doubts take that away from us. She folded the letter carefully, deciding she would give it to him when they met. But fate has strange ways. The next time they saw each other, Ion was quieter than usual. His smiles were half-hearted, his eyes searching hers for answers he never asked aloud. Zara, too, grew hesitant, waiting for the right moment to hand him the letter. But before she could, in a rush of distraction, she left it on the library table. And when she returned later, it was gone. That one missing letter became the seed of silence between them. Ion, haunted by the image of Zara with another man, began to withdraw. Zara, hurt by his distance, wondered why he didn't trust her. Neither spoke the truth. Neither asked the questions that could have saved them. One evening, as they walked out of the cafe, the gap between them felt heavier than the silence. Zara, softly, trying to bridge it. You've changed, Ion. Do you even want to see me anymore? Ion forced a smile, but his voice betrayed him. Ion, maybe you're just busy with other things. Zara's heart cracked. She looked at him, her eyes glistening, but instead of answering, she turned away, walking into the night alone. Narrator's voice, gentle, emotional. Sometimes, it isn't betrayal that ruins love, it is silence. A word unspoken, a truth misunderstood, a letter lost, can become storms that lovers never meant to create. Misunderstandings are strange things. They don't arrive with thunder or storms. They creep in quietly, through silences, through glances avoided, through words unsaid. And between Ion and Zara, that silence was growing louder every day. Ion still went to the library, still ordered tea at their favorite cafe. But his eyes no longer carried the same spark. He listened less, questioned more, doubted silently. Zara noticed. She felt the shift in his tone, the hesitation in his laughter, the way he avoided meeting her gaze for too long. One afternoon, as they sat together, Zara finally spoke. Zara, softly, you don't talk the way you used to. Have I done something wrong? Ion stirred his tea slowly, avoiding her eyes. Ion, no, you haven't. Maybe I'm just busy. The word busy cut through Zara like a blade. She forced a smile, but inside, her heart trembled. At home, Zara's father grew more suspicious. He had noticed her sneaking smiles at her phone, her excuses to stay late at the library. Zara's father, sternly, we didn't raise you to waste time in meaningless friendships. Remember, your future is in our hands. Zara swallowed her tears, nodding silently. She wanted to scream, he isn't meaningless. But fear kept her quiet. That night, she wrote another letter to Ion. Ion, if sometimes I seem distant, please understand, it's not because of you. My world is complicated, but in that world, you are my only light. Don't let distance make us strangers. But once again, her courage betrayed her. She folded the letter, tucked it inside her diary, and never gave it to him. Meanwhile, Ion's mother began noticing her son's restlessness. Ami, kia hua, beta? Tamari muskan kahan ko gei. Ion, quietly kabi lagtahai, kuch rishte hums faisal jate hain. Or hum kuch kab hi nahi parte. His mother sighed, resting a hand on his head. Ami, jo rishte ala liktahai, unhain junior tod nahi sakti. Tum surf sakhai sechalna. But Ion's heart was heavy. He couldn't shake off the image of Zara with that unknown man. Doubt ate at him, and silence became his shield. The days stretched into weeks. Their meetings grew shorter, their conversations thinner. The bond that once felt effortless now carried the weight of unspoken pain. And then, the storm arrived. One evening, Zara came home to find her house filled with relatives. Laughter, greetings, and a sense of formality hung in the air. She was confused until her mother pulled her aside. Zara's mother, softly but firmly, "Your father has accepted a rishta for you. The boy's family came today. They are happy. The engagement will be announced soon." Zara's world stopped. Her books fell from her hands. Zara, shaking, whispering, "Ami, but I." Her mother pressed her hand gently, silencing her. Zara's mother, "Beta, sometimes life isn't about what we want. It's about what's right for the family." That night, Zara sat in her room, tears streaming endlessly. She wanted to call Ayon, to scream his name, to tell him the truth. But her phone lay silent on the desk, her courage shattered. On the other side of the city, Ayon stared at his own phone, waiting for her call, waiting for an explanation he wasn't brave enough to ask for. And so, two hearts, desperate for each other, remained silent. Narrator's voice, somber, suspenseful. Love doesn't always end with betrayal. Sometimes, it ends with silence, with duty, with decisions forced by family. And sometimes, it ends before it even has the chance to truly begin. The news arrived not like thunder, but like a knife slipping quietly into the heart. It was an ordinary evening. Ayon was at his desk, staring blankly at the lines of code on his screen. His phone buzzed. A message from a mutual friend at the library cafe. Message: "Heard about Zara's engagement. Big family gathering today. The wedding will be soon." Ayon froze. His fingers went numb. For a moment, he thought it must be a mistake. But as he read the message again and again, his chest tightened until breathing felt impossible. Engagement. The word echoed in his mind like an endless scream. He rushed out of his apartment, aimlessly walking through the crowded streets. People moved past him, laughing, talking, living, while his world was crumbling. Finally, he sat on a bench near the park where he and Zara had once laughed about sunsets. That memory now burned. Ayon, whispering to himself, "You promised me dreams, Zara. Why didn't you tell me they weren't ours to keep?" Tears blurred his vision, but he wiped them quickly, ashamed of crying in public. Yet inside, his heart had already shattered into 1,000 pieces. That same night, Zara sat in her room, dressed in an engagement dress she never chose, gold bangles heavy on her wrists. Relatives had filled the house, congratulating, celebrating. She had smiled for them, an empty, broken smile. But when the last guest left, she locked her door and collapsed to the floor. Zara, sobbing, "Ayon, I never wanted this. Why didn't I fight harder? Why didn't I tell you?" She pulled out her diary, flipping through the pages of unsent letters. Each one was soaked with unspoken love, every word a confession she had been too afraid to voice. Her tears fell on the ink, smudging her words. She clutched the diary to her chest, whispering his name like a prayer. The next day, Ayon couldn't stop himself. He waited outside the library, hoping, just hoping, that Zara would come. And she did. But she wasn't alone. She walked with her fiancé, a tall, well-dressed man with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He held Zara's hand firmly, almost possessively. Zara's face was pale, her eyes lowered, avoiding Ayon's gaze. When their eyes finally met, for a split second, time froze. Zara's lips trembled as if she wanted to speak. But under her fiancé's grip, she turned away. Ayon stood rooted to the ground, every muscle aching to scream, to demand, to fight. But instead, he let silence bury him once more. That night, Ayon's mother found him sitting in the dark, his eyes swollen. "Ami, worried Kia Hua, Beta." Ayon, voice breaking, "She's gone, Ami. The one thing that made me believe in life, she belongs to someone else now." His mother's eyes filled with tears, but she held his hand firmly. "Ami, Beta, Jo ala likta hai, wo kabihums chut nahi sakta. Agar Zara tamari liki hai, to junior kasab tali pi tumhain rock nahi saked." Her words gave comfort, but not peace. Ayon still felt like a man drowning in a storm with no shore in sight. Meanwhile, Zara's own storm was only beginning. Her fiancé wasn't the man her family believed him to be. Behind closed doors, his temper was sharp, his voice cruel. He spoke to her not like a partner, but like property. Fiancé, angrily one evening. Remember, Zara, you are mine now. Forget your silly dreams and childish friendships. Zara's heart clenched. Her silence grew heavier. She had chosen obedience over love, but with every passing day, the chains around her heart grew tighter. Narrator's voice, somber, suspenseful. Love doesn't always break because lovers stop loving. Sometimes, it breaks because the world demands sacrifices that hearts cannot survive. But what if the sacrifice hides a darker truth? What if the person chosen is not who he seems? Zara's engagement days unfolded like a play where she was the lead actress, dressed beautifully, smiling on cue, greeting relatives, but inside, she felt like a prisoner reading lines she never chose. Her fiancé, Saad, was admired by her family. Wealthy, charming, well-spoken in front of elders, he seemed perfect. But Zara knew that perfection was just a mask. Because behind closed doors, the mask cracked. One evening, a week after the engagement, Saad drove Zara home from a family dinner. At first, he was calm, making polite conversation. But when Zara mentioned her interest in continuing her studies, his tone turned sharp. Saad, snapping studies? After marriage, your only job is to take care of me and my family. Forget your childish dreams of writing. Zara's hands tightened around her dupatta. Zara, softly, but it's my passion. I thought you would understand. Saad slammed his hand on the steering wheel, making her flinch. Saad, coldly, don't argue with me. I don't like women who answer back. Remember, Zara, you belong to me now. Her heart sank. Fear crawled into her chest. She stared out of the car window, blinking back tears, realizing the man her family trusted was not the man they thought. The next day, Zara's doubts became a terrifying reality. She overheard Saad on a phone call, his voice low, angry, and filled with threats. Saad, on phone, harsh: if the shipment doesn't reach by Friday, you'll regret crossing me. I have people everywhere, don't test me. Zara froze behind the half-open door. Shipment. Threats. His words sounded like a man involved in dangerous dealings, not business. Her blood ran cold. When Saad ended the call, she slipped away silently, her heart pounding. That night, Zara wrote another letter in her diary, her hands trembling as she poured her fears onto paper. Ayon. If only I could tell you the truth. The man my family chose for me, he isn't what he pretends to be. I feel trapped in a cage I can't escape. I don't know how long I can hide my fear behind smiles. But even in this darkness, you are the light I hold in my heart. But again, the letter remained unsent. She hid it among the many others, her secret cries locked away when no one could hear. Meanwhile, Ayon was fighting his own storm. He had thrown himself into work, trying to bury his pain under projects and deadlines. But nothing worked. Every street reminded him of Zara. Every poem he once mocked now felt like his own story. One evening, he sat with his closest friend, Imran, at a roadside tea stall. Imran, by Tu To Surf Zinda Hai, Ji Nahi Raha. Agar Zara Tuj Chod Kar Kisi Or Ki Hai, To Bul Jaye. Kyan Apna Dil Tod Raha Hai. Ayon sighed deeply. Ayon, it's not that easy, Imran. You don't just forget someone who lives in your breath. She's in everything I see, everything I feel. How do I erase that? Imran shook his head sadly, realizing nothing he said could soothe the wound. But fate was not done. One late afternoon, as Ayon walked near the old market, he saw them, Zara and Saad, stepping out of a jewelry shop. Saad's grip on Zara's arm looked harsh, controlling. And Zara, her eyes, even from a distance, looked tired, broken. Their eyes met for a brief second. Zara's lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but Saad pulled her away before she could. Ayon stood frozen. He had never seen that look in her eyes before. Not guilt. Not indifference. But pain. A question echoed in his mind. What was happening behind closed doors? That night, Ayon couldn't sleep. He lay awake, his mother's words replaying in his mind, Jo Allah Likta Hai, Junior Tod Nahi Sakti. Was this Allah's way of showing him something? That Zara wasn't happy. That maybe her story wasn't over with him? For the first time since the engagement, a tiny spark lit inside his broken heart, the spark of hope. Narrator's voice, tense, suspenseful. Some truths hide in shadows, waiting to be revealed. And when they surface, they don't just test love, they test courage. Zara had seen her fiancé's true face. But the question remained, would she dare to escape it, or would she be silenced forever? Sometimes the universe conspires to bring two hearts together, even when the world around them tries to keep them apart. It had been weeks since Ayon and Zara had spoken. Weeks of silence, of sleepless nights, of unspoken words locked inside their chests. But destiny had one more meeting written for them. It was a rainy evening at the library cafe, the same place where their love had quietly blossomed. Ayon had come out of habit, though he told himself he was only there for coffee. And then, she walked in. Zara. Her dupatta damp from the drizzle, her eyes tired but still carrying that familiar warmth. For a moment, both of them just stood still, staring at each other as if time itself had paused. Finally, Ayon broke the silence. Ayon, softly, almost a whisper. Zara. Her eyes glistened, but she forced a smile. Zara, it's been a while. They sat at their usual corner table. The silence between them was louder than words. Finally, Ayon leaned forward, his voice trembling. Ayon, why didn't you tell me, Zara? Why didn't you tell me about him? Zara looked down, fiddling with the edge of her notebook. Zara, quietly, because some battles. I was too weak to fight. I didn't want to burden you with a war you couldn't win. Ayon, pained. You think loving you is a burden? You think watching you walk away was easier? Her tears spilled, her voice breaking. Zara, I never walked away, Ayon. I was pulled away. And I didn't have the strength to resist. Ayon's jaw tightened. His heart was screaming with questions. But one burned louder than the rest. Ayon, firmly. Zara, are you happy? Zara froze. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. Her silence was the answer he feared, yet it was also the truth he needed. Ayon, softly, voice cracking. Then why are you doing this to yourself? Zara finally met his eyes, her tears shining. Zara, whispering, because sometimes, love isn't enough. Because sometimes, duty feels heavier than dreams. For a long moment, they just sat there, the rain tapping against the windows like nature's tears. Zara slid a folded piece of paper across the table. Her hands shook as she whispered. Zara, I wrote this for you, but I never had the courage to give it. Ayon unfolded it. It was the letter she had written weeks ago, the one confessing her fears, her love, her helplessness. As he read, his vision blurred with tears. His hands trembled, gripping the paper like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Ayon, hoarse. Zara, we still have a chance. Leave him. We'll find a way. We'll fight the world together. Zara shook her head, pain etched into her face. Zara, it's too late, Ayon. The engagement is done. My family's honor is tied to his name now. If I break it, my father will never forgive me. I can't destroy them for my happiness. Ayon's voice cracked. Ayon, and what about me? What about us? Her tears fell freely now. She reached across the table, her trembling hand resting on his. Zara, you'll live, Ayon. You'll move on. You'll find peace, even if it's not with me. But before Ayon could answer, her phone buzzed. The name flashing on the screen made her pale. Saad. She quickly pulled her hand away, her fear visible. Zara, hurriedly, I have to go. Please, don't follow me. She stood up, her dupatta slipping off her shoulder, her tears mixing with the rain as she rushed out of the cafe. Ayon sat frozen, his heart tearing apart, the crumpled letter clutched in his hand. Narrator's voice, heavy, emotional. Love sometimes ends not with anger, but with silence. Not with betrayal, but with helplessness. Yet even as Zara walked away that night, the story between them was not over. For destiny had one more storm to unleash. Storms don't announce themselves. They build quietly, in whispers and shadows, until one day, they crash with thunder. For Zara and Ayon, that storm was Saad. Saad's suspicion. It was late evening when Saad dropped Zara home after dinner with his business associates. He noticed something different, her distracted silence, her watery eyes. "Saad," narrowing his eyes, "why are you so quiet today? Did something happen?" Zara quickly shook her head. "Zara," forcing a smile, "just tired, that's all." But Saad wasn't convinced. He leaned closer, his voice sharp. "Saad, don't ever think you can hide things from me. I notice everything." Zara's heart raced. She lowered her gaze, her silence feeding his suspicion even more. Ayon's turmoil. Meanwhile, Ayon sat in his room with Zara's letter in his hands. He had read it dozens of times, each word carving itself deeper into his soul. Ayon, to himself, whispering, "She still loves me. She's suffering. How can I just stand by and do nothing?" His mother entered, seeing the pain in his eyes. "Ami," softly beta, "Kuch Barteen Wakt Ku Horail Kani Padtihain. But if your heart still feels she's yours, then maybe Allah wants you to fight." Ayon looked at her, torn between hope and despair. His fists clenched. He could no longer pretend to move on. The encounter. A few days later, fate brought Ayon and Saad face to face. It was at the same market where Zara often bought her books. Ayon had gone there unknowingly. Saad, holding Zara's hand, spotted him instantly. "Saad," coldly, "who's this?" Zara's eyes widened, her heart stopping. She looked at Ayon, then at Saad, struggling to find words. Zara, hesitant, "Just a friend from the library." Saad's eyes narrowed, scanning Ayon from head to toe. Saad, mocking smile, "A friend, hem? I don't like my fiancé talking to strangers." Ayon clenched his fists but forced himself to stay calm. Ayon, quietly, but firmly, "Some friendships are purer than your so-called respect, Saad." Saad's smile vanished. His grip on Zara's wrist tightened painfully, making her flinch. "Saad," threateningly, "stay away from her. She's mine now." Ayon's eyes burned with anger, but Zara quickly shook her head at him, silently pleading not to make things worse. Zara's silent cry. That night, Zara sat by her window, staring at the moon, her wrist still aching from Saad's grip. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered to herself, "Zara, how do I fight this? How do I tell Ayon that every day with Saad feels like drowning?" She opened her diary and began another letter she knew she might never send. "Ayon, when you looked at me today, I wanted to scream the truth. That my heart still belongs to you. That every second with him feels like a chain around my soul. But fear holds me back. Fear of my father's anger, of my family's honor, of the prison Saad is building around me. But please, Ayon, don't give up on me. Not yet." She closed the diary, her tears soaking the page. Saad's warning. At the same time, Saad sat in his car, smoking, his mind racing with suspicion. He replayed the way Zara looked at Ayon, the flicker in her eyes, the silence that screamed too much. He crushed the cigarette angrily. Saad, to himself, so, she still thinks about him. If that boy doesn't stay away, I'll make sure he disappears. The storm had broken. And now, danger was no longer just a shadow, it was real, sharp, and fast approaching. Narrator's voice, tense, suspenseful. Love had already been fragile under silence and sacrifice. But now, with Saad's suspicion, the game had changed. This was no longer about heartbreak, it was about survival. And the question was, how much could Zara and Ayon endure before fate made its cruelest move? When love becomes dangerous, it's no longer just about broken hearts, it becomes a fight for survival. Saad's suspicion had grown into obsession. And obsession, when mixed with arrogance, becomes poison. Saad's plan. Late at night, Saad sat in his study, his phone in his hand, his jaw clenched. He called one of his men, a shady associate from his business circles. "Saad," coldly, "there's a boy. His name is Ayon. I don't want him anywhere near Zara again. Do whatever it takes to scare him, make sure he knows his place." The man on the other end chuckled darkly. "Associate, Samaj Gaya, boss. He won't dare to come close again." Saad smirked, pouring himself a glass of whiskey. His reflection in the mirror looked nothing like the charming fiancé everyone praised, It was darker, hungrier, more dangerous. Zara's guilt. Meanwhile, Zara was living with guilt clawing at her heart. Every time she saw Ion, she felt hope, but also fear. Every time Saad held her arm too tightly, she wanted to scream, but her voice never came out. One evening, she sat with her younger brother, Hamza, who had always been closest to her. Hamza, curiously Apa, are you happy with this engagement? You don't look the same anymore. Zara's eyes welled up, but she forced a smile. Zara, softly, happiness isn't always important, Hamza. Sometimes, family's respect is more important. Hamza frowned, sensing something deeper, but he stayed silent. He didn't know that his sister's heart was breaking every day. Ion in danger. 2 days later, as Ion was leaving work late at night, 3 men cornered him in a deserted alley. Man 1, mocking, so you're the hero, Ion? The one who thinks he can steal someone else's fiancée. Ion's eyes narrowed. Ion, firmly, I don't fight for what isn't mine. But if Zara's heart beats for me, no one, not even your boss, can take that away. The men lunged at him. Ion fought back, his fists fueled by anger and love. But he was outnumbered. A blow to his stomach, then one to his face, blood trickled from his lip. Finally, they shoved him to the ground. One man leaned close, whispering, Man 2, stay away from Zara, or next time, it won't just be a warning. They disappeared into the night, leaving Ion bruised but unbroken. The silent connection. That same night, Zara felt restless. She didn't know why, but her heart raced, as if sensing Ion's pain. She stood by her window, whispering into the darkness. Zara, wherever you are, Ion. I hope you're safe. Don't give up on me. Please. Far across the city, Ion sat on his bed, blood on his shirt, his mother tending to his wounds. His eyes, however, weren't on his injuries, they were on Zara's letter, still clutched in his hand. Ion, whispering to himself, even if the whole world stands in my way, Zara, I won't let you suffer alone. Saad's warning. The next day, Saad showed up at Zara's house earlier than usual. He smiled politely in front of her parents, but when he caught her alone in the garden, his tone turned sharp. Saad, low, threatening, tell your friend to stay out of our lives. If I see him again, I won't be merciful. Zara's heart dropped. She looked at him, fear and anger mixing inside her. Zara, trembling, he was never just a friend, Saad. He was my peace. Saad's eyes burned with rage. He leaned closer, gripping her chin harshly. Saad, coldly, then forget your peace, Zara. Because from now on, you belong to me, whether you like it or not. Zara pulled back, tears in her eyes, realizing the cage around her was closing tighter every day. Narrator's voice, dark, suspenseful. Love was no longer just a story of hearts, it had become a war. Ion's bruises were only the beginning. Saad's warning was clear. And Zara's silence was slowly killing her. But sometimes, even the weakest heart finds strength when it has nothing left to lose. Every heart has a limit. You can carry silence, endure pain, and swallow tears for so long, but one day, it all spills over. For Zara, that day was near. Zara's restlessness. The bruises on Ion's face haunted her dreams, though she didn't even know they existed. Somewhere deep inside, her soul told her he was suffering because of her silence. She stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping. Even her family noticed. Zara's mother, worried, beat her. Why do you look so pale these days? You should be happy, your wedding is coming closer. Zara forced a smile, her voice barely a whisper. Zara, happiness isn't always what it looks like, Ami. Her mother frowned, but before she could ask more, Saad entered the room, his presence filling the space like a shadow. Saad's control. Saad had grown more possessive. He called Zara constantly, checking where she was, whom she spoke to, even what she wore. One afternoon, he spotted her diary on her study table. Saad, smirking, what do we have here? Secret poems? Or secret love letters? Zara's heart leapt. She rushed forward, snatching the diary from his hands. Zara, firmly, for the first time, this is mine. Don't touch it. Saad's eyes darkened. He stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. Saad, never raise your voice at me again. You're going to be my wife, Zara. And wives don't keep secrets. Her hands trembled, clutching the diary to her chest. She knew if he ever opened it, her hidden letters to Ayon would destroy everything. Ayon's determination. Across the city, Ayon's wounds had begun to heal, but his resolve had grown stronger. One evening, Imran confronted him. Imran, serious by, they'll kill you if you don't stop. Saad isn't just a spoiled fiancé, he's dangerous. His people are dangerous. Ayon's eyes blazed. Ayon, then let them come. I'd rather die fighting for Zara than live knowing she's trapped with a man like him. Imran sighed, shaking his head. But he also knew there was no turning Ayon's heart away from Zara. Zara's breaking point. The true crack came one evening when Zara's father praised Saad in front of relatives. Father, proudly, we are blessed to have a son-in-law like Saad. He's respectable, successful, and will keep our daughter happy. Zara's chest tightened so painfully she could hardly breathe. She excused herself and rushed to her room. There, she collapsed onto her bed, clutching her diary, sobbing uncontrollably. Zara, to herself, how long can I live like this? Smiling for them, dying inside? How long can I let Ayon suffer in silence too? She opened her diary and wrote, her hand shaking. Ayon, I can't do this anymore. Every day with Saad feels like chains tightening around me. I'm scared, but I'm more scared of losing myself completely. Maybe it's time I choose love over fear. Maybe it's time I fight back. The decision. That night, as the clock struck midnight, Zara stood by her window, staring at the moon. She pressed her diary to her chest, whispering into the night. Zara, Ayon, wait for me. I don't know how. I don't know when, but I'll find a way back to you. For the first time in weeks, her tears felt different, not just of pain, but of strength. The storm ahead. But outside her door, Saad stood in the shadows. He had come upstairs quietly, intending to surprise her. Instead, he heard her whispers through the half-open window. Her words, I'll find a way back to you, burned in his ears like fire. His jaw tightened. His fists clenched. Saad, to himself, seething, so it is him. She still loves him. If she thinks she can betray me, she'll regret it. The storm was no longer coming. It was here. Narrator's voice, tense, dramatic. When silence turns into strength, hearts can move mountains. But strength also invites danger. Zara had finally chosen to fight for her love, unaware that the enemy was already listening. When love finds courage, darkness often strikes harder. Zara had finally whispered her truth to the night, but the night had betrayed her. Saad had heard every word. And for a man like Saad, betrayal demanded punishment. Saad's fury. The next morning, Saad appeared at Zara's house with his usual charm. He greeted her parents with sweets, cracked polite jokes, and played the perfect son-in-law. But when he caught Zara alone in the garden, his mask dropped. Saad, coldly, gripping her arm, so, you're planning to run back to him? To that nobody. Zara froze, her heart racing. Zara, whispering, trembling, Saad, please, you're hurting me. He tightened his grip until she winced. Saad, through clenched teeth, you belong to me, Zara. If you even think of meeting him again, not only will I ruin him, I'll ruin your family's honor too. Do you understand? Zara's tears fell silently. She nodded, afraid that one wrong word could set off a fire she couldn't control. Ayon's restlessness. Across the city, Ayon's heart was restless. He hadn't heard from Zara in days. His bruises had faded, but the ache in his chest only grew stronger. Sitting with Imran at the tea stall, he confessed. Ayon, I know she's in pain. I can feel it. She wants to fight, but something's holding her back. Imran shook his head. Imran, I'm scared for you. Saad isn't just a fiancé, he's a snake. He'll trap you before you even realize. Ayon's jaw tightened. Ayon, firmly, then let him try. I won't stop until I know Zara is safe. The trap tightens. That very week, Saad set his plan into motion. He invited Zara and her family to a grand dinner at his house. The gathering was full of influential people, business partners, family friends, relatives. Zara sat silently, dressed in an elegant gown, her heart heavy. She noticed Saad whispering to one of his men several times, his eyes occasionally flicking toward her. A knot of dread formed in her stomach. Midway through the evening, Saad stood up, raising his glass. "Saad, smiling friends, today I want to share something personal. A gift, a memory, a proof of my love for Zara." He clapped his hands. Suddenly, a projector lit up on the wall. Photos appeared, grainy pictures of Zara and Ayan sitting together at the library cafe, walking near the park, even one where Zara's hand brushed against Ayan's across the table. The crowd gasped. Murmurs spread across the hall. Zara's father's face turned red with anger, while her mother lowered her gaze in shame. Zara's heart stopped. She looked at Saad, horror in her eyes. Zara, whispering, shaking, "What have you done?" Saad leaned close, smiling wickedly. Saad, whispering back, "This is just a taste. Imagine what else I can do if you disobey me again." The fallout. After the dinner, Zara's father stormed into her room. "Father," furious, "how dare you humiliate us like this? Meeting a boy behind our backs. Do you realize what this could do to our family's name?" Zara tried to speak, her voice trembling. "Zara, Abba, it's not like that. But before she could finish, he raised his hand, silencing her with a glare. "Father, from today, you will have no phone, no library visits, no excuses. Until your marriage, you will stay inside this house. Do you understand?" Her world collapsed. She had lost her only escape, her only way to reach Ayan. Ayan's helplessness. That same night, Ayan waited at the library cafe. Hours passed, but Zara never came. He dialed her number again and again, but it was switched off. His chest ached with dread. Ayan, to himself, whispering, "Zara, where are you? What's happening to you?" He didn't know that Saad's trap had already been set, that Zara was now locked away, her voice silenced, her every move watched. Narrator's voice, somber, suspenseful. When love is pure, the world often calls it a sin. Saad had played his cruel game, staining Zara's name and caging her heart. But destiny doesn't stay silent forever. And sometimes, the darkest traps lead to the brightest rebellions. Sometimes the harshest prisons don't have iron bars, they are made of silence, control, and fear. Zara was trapped in one such prison now. Zara's confinement. The days after Saad's dinner betrayal were unbearable. Her father had locked away her phone, her diary, even restricted her from visiting the library. Every corner of the house felt like a cage. She sat by her bedroom window, staring at the sky. Freedom was just outside, yet so far away. Her younger brother Hamza slipped into her room quietly one afternoon. "Hamza, softly Apa, why are they treating you like this? What really happened?" Zara hugged him tightly, her tears soaking his shoulder. Zara, whispering sometimes, "Hamza, telling the truth hurts more people than lies. I'm just trying to protect you all." Hamza frowned, sensing her pain, but didn't push further. He left quietly, carrying her secret like a heavy stone in his young heart. Saad's visits. Saad visited often now, under the pretense of checking on Zara. But every visit felt like another chain added to her soul. One evening, he leaned against her doorway, smirking. "Saad, how does it feel, Zara? Being locked away from the world, from him? Maybe now you'll learn where you belong." Zara looked at him with quiet defiance, her voice trembling but steady. "Zara, a cage can hold my body, Saad. Not my heart." For a brief moment, Saad's smile faltered. Anger flickered in his eyes. But he quickly covered it with a cold laugh. "Saad, he can't save you. No one can." Ayan's desperation. Meanwhile, Ayan grew restless with every passing day. Zara had vanished from his world. No calls, no visits, no letters. He sat with Imran in their small room, frustration boiling inside him. "Ayan, something's wrong. This isn't just silence, this is imprisonment." Imran, worried by, what if her family found out? What if Saad? Ayan clenched his fists, his eyes burning with determination. "Ayan, then I'll break every wall between us. Even if I have to stand against her whole world, I'll find her. The secret letter. One rainy evening, Zara managed to slip a small note into Hamza's school bag. She wrote it hurriedly on a scrap of paper, her hands trembling. Ayon. They've locked me away. Saad has trapped me. But don't lose hope, I'm still yours, always. If you love me, find me, before it's too late. Hamza, unaware of the note's weight, delivered his school bag to Ayon the next day when he ran into him outside the cafe. Hamza, innocently by, Apa wanted you to, maybe check this. Ayon opened the bag later that night and found the crumpled note. His heart pounded as he read her words again and again, the rain outside matching the storm in his chest. Ayon, whispering Zara. I'll come for you. No matter what it takes. Saad's growing paranoia. But Saad was not blind. He sensed Zara's defiance, her quiet strength that refused to break. His paranoia grew. One night, he sat with his associate, sipping his drink. Saad, darkly, she still thinks she has a choice. I need to end this hope once and for all. If she won't forget him, I'll make sure he forgets her, permanently. The associate leaned forward, smirking. Associate, accidents happen every day, boss. One slip, one crash, and no one will ever know. Saad's smile returned, wicked and cruel. Narrator's voice, heavy, foreboding. Zara's heart beat louder inside her cage, whispering for freedom. Ayon held her words close, ready to risk everything. But Saad's trap was far from over. This time, he wasn't planning just humiliation, he was planning destruction. Love can survive distance, silence, even betrayal, but can it survive death? Saad was ready to test that. Saad's ruthless resolve. In his lavish office, Saad leaned back in his chair, staring out of the glass window as the city lights flickered below. His associate stood before him, waiting for orders. Saad, calm, sinister. I don't want warnings anymore. No threats. End him. I don't care how, an accident, a fight, a disappearance. Just make sure Ayon is gone, forever. The associate smirked, nodding. Associate, consider it done, boss. He won't live to see another sunrise. Saad's lips curved into a cold smile. In his mind, the problem was already solved. Soon, Zara would have no one left to whisper to at night. Zara's instincts. But Zara felt a chill run through her heart that night. She paced in her room, restless, her hands trembling as she clutched Ayon's note. Hamza noticed and asked softly, Hamza, Apa, are you scared? Zara looked at him, her eyes red with unshed tears. Zara, yes, Hamza. I'm scared of what Saad will do. I know he won't stop until he destroys everything. She pressed her forehead to the windowpane, whispering into the dark. Zara, Ayon, please, stay safe. Don't come near him. Not yet. Ayon's determination. Meanwhile, Ayon was on fire with determination after reading Zara's letter. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Her words echoed in his chest like a heartbeat. If you love me, find me, before it's too late. He met Imran the next morning. Ayon, she's trapped, Imran. She's crying for help. I can't waste another day. Imran, worried, and what's your plan? Walk into her house, past her family, past Saad, and take her away? They'll kill you. Ayon's eyes hardened. Ayon, then let them. But I'd rather die trying to save her than live knowing I let her suffer. The setup. That evening, as Ayon rode his motorcycle home from work, a black car began tailing him. Inside sat Saad's men, their eyes locked on their target. Man 1, grinning boss said, make it look like an accident. Tonight's the night. The car sped forward, headlights flashing, closing the gap. Ayon noticed them in his side mirror. His instincts screamed danger. Ayon, to himself, tense, so it begins. The chase grew wilder, through narrow streets, sharp turns, horns blaring. Ayon's heart pounded, not for himself, but for Zara. Zara's nightmare. At the same time, Zara jolted awake from a nightmare. She had seen Ayon's face, blooded, broken, calling out her name. She gasped, clutching her chest. She fell to her knees, whispering desperately. Zara, ya Allah, protect him. Don't let my love die. Don't let my Ayon leave me. Her tears hit the floor as her prayer floated into the night, unaware that at that very moment, Ayon's life was hanging by a thread. The close call. The black car swerved, attempting to slam Ayon off the road. At the last second, Ayon twisted his bike, barely escaping the hit. He darted down a side alley, his breath ragged, tires screeching against the wet road. The men cursed, following closely behind. Man too, angrily his good. But no one escapes us forever. Finally, the chase ended when Ayon's bike skidded near an abandoned construction site. He jumped off, hiding in the shadows as the car sped past. He pressed his back against the wall, chest heaving, whispering to himself. Ayon, grimly, so Saad wants me dead. Good. Let him come. But before that, I'll take Zara away from his cage. Narrator's voice, dark, suspenseful. The game had changed. Saad no longer wanted to scare Ayon, he wanted to erase him. But love is not so easily erased. With every attack, Ayon's resolve only burned brighter. And Zara's prayers only grew louder. Destiny was weaving a dangerous storm, one that would soon consume them all. When love is caged and hunted, it either breaks, or it finds wings. Ayon had decided, he would give Zara her wings, even if it cost him his life. Ayon's decision. The night after the chase, Ayon sat with Imran on the rooftop of their small house. The city lights flickered below, but Ayon's eyes were far away, burning with resolve. Ayon, quiet but firm, they want me gone. Fine. But before that happens, I'll take Zara out of that prison. Imran shook his head, fear in his voice. Imran, bye, you'll be killed. Her house is guarded, her father watches every move, and Saad is a devil with power. Ayon turned to him, his voice breaking but steady. Ayon, Imran, some loves are worth dying for. If I don't fight for her, I'll lose myself anyway. Imran fell silent. He knew nothing could change his brother's heart. Zara's hope. Meanwhile, Zara had grown pale and fragile from her confinement. But when Hamza secretly whispered to her that he had delivered the note safely, her heart flickered with hope. That night, she sat by her window, whispering to the stars. Zara, Ayon, I know you got my words. I know you'll come. And when you do, I'll be ready. For the first time in weeks, she slept with a faint smile, clutching her dupatta like it carried Ayon's warmth. The secret meeting. 2 days later, Ayon disguised himself, cap pulled low, scarf covering half his face, and waited near Hamza's school. When Hamza spotted him, his eyes widened. Hamza, hushed, excited by, you shouldn't be here. If anyone sees. Ayon placed a finger on his lips. Ayon, urgent, I need you, Hamza. I can't reach Zara, but you can. Tell her, 3 nights from now, I'll be waiting at the old railway station. Midnight. If she's ready to escape, I'll take her away. Hamza hesitated, fear and loyalty battling inside him. But then he nodded. Hamza, I'll tell her. For Apa. Saad's watchful eye. But Saad was growing more paranoid by the day. He had spies everywhere, drivers, guards, even servants. One of them noticed Hamza whispering too much to Zara, sneaking into her room at odd hours. That evening, the spy reported back. Spy, boss, the boy, her brother. He's hiding something. He keeps slipping messages to her. Saad's eyes narrowed. Saad, smirking good. Let them think they're clever. I want to see what game they're playing. And when they fall into the trap, I'll crush them both. Zara's choice. That night, Hamza delivered Ayon's message to Zara. Her heart raced, her palms trembling. Hamza, softly Apa, he said, 3 nights from now, midnight, the old railway station. He'll take you away. Zara sat frozen. The thought of running terrified her, leaving her parents, her family's honor, everything she had known. But then she remembered Saad's grip on her arm, her father's angry eyes, and her own suffocating silence. Her tears fell as she whispered, Zara, tell him. I'll come. Even if it's the last thing I do. Hamza hugged her tightly, whispering back, Hamza, then we'll both help you. You won't be alone. The calm before the storm. The next 3 days crawled by. Zara pretended to obey, smiling weakly when spoken to, but her heart counted down the hours. Ion prepared silently, gathering whatever little money he had, mapping their route, planning to vanish into a new city. But none of them knew. Saad already suspected. And Saad never let go of his prey. Narrator's voice, dark, rising suspense. Love had found its courage. An escape was planned, a reunion promised. But courage always comes at a cost. And in the shadows, Saad waited, ready to turn their hope into their greatest downfall. The night of dreams is also the night of danger. For Zara and Ion, it was a night that could give them freedom, or take everything away. The midnight countdown. The house was quiet, but Zara's heart thundered like a drum. She sat fully dressed on her bed, her dupatta pulled tightly around her shoulders, her bag hidden beneath the blanket. Every tick of the clock felt like a roar. Midnight was near. Hamza slipped into her room, his eyes wide with both fear and excitement. Hamza, whispering, "Apa, it's time. The guards are half asleep. We need to go now." Zara hugged him tightly, tears stinging her eyes. "Zara, softly, Hamza, if anything happens, promise me you'll stay safe." Hamza shook his head firmly. "Hamza, not without you. Let's go." The silent escape. They crept through the hallways like shadows. Zara's heart skipped when she saw her father's room door slightly open, but he was asleep inside. At the main gate, the guard snored under the dim light. Hamza carefully unlocked the smaller side door. It creaked, but the night's wind covered the sound. Zara stepped outside for the first time in weeks. The night air felt like freedom kissing her face. The old railway station. Ion was already waiting at the abandoned railway station. His motorcycle stood nearby, his eyes scanning the darkness, nerves eating at him. Every sound made him tense. Was it Zara? Or Saad's men? Finally, he saw them, Zara in her flowing dupatta, Hamza clutching her hand, running toward him. His chest tightened, his eyes moist. Ion, breathless, stepping forward. Zara. Zara stopped in front of him, her eyes shining with tears. For a moment, the world disappeared. Zara, whispering, "Breaking, you came. I knew you'd come." Ion, softly, holding her hands. "Even if the whole world stood against me, Zara, I'd still come." The reunion. They embraced, trembling in each other's arms. Zara buried her face in his chest, sobbing. "Zara, take me away, Ion. Take me anywhere, just don't let him find me." Ion, firmly, "No one will take you from me now. Not Saad, not your fears, not the world." For a brief, fragile moment, it felt like love had won. The shadows in the dark. But fate was not so kind. As they moved toward the bike, a sound echoed, a slow clap. The kind of clap that chilled the blood. They froze. From the shadows, Saad stepped forward, flanked by 2 of his men. His face was calm, but his eyes were fire. Saad, mocking, "How beautiful. The runaway princess and her poor poet. Did you really think you could escape me?" Zara's face drained of color. Ion instinctively moved in front of her, shielding her with his body. Ion, angrily, "Saad, this ends tonight. You've caged her long enough." Saad smirked. "Saad, oh, it ends tonight, Ion. But not the way you imagine." The clash begins. Saad's men lunged forward. Ion shoved Zara behind him and fought back with fury. Fists flew, bodies slammed against the ground. Hamza shouted, trying to pull Zara away, but she refused to leave Ion's side. Ion's punches landed with desperation, his love giving him strength. But Saad's men were trained, ruthless. A blow to his side, another to his face, blood dripped from his lip. Zara screamed, her voice echoing in the empty station. Zara, crying, "Ion, no. Please." Saad watched with a satisfied smirk, arms crossed, enjoying the chaos like a cruel king watching his prey struggle. The cliffhanger. Finally, one of Saad's men pulled a knife from his pocket, the blade gleaming under the dim station light. He moved toward Ion, who was already on his knees, panting, weakened from the fight. Zara's heart stopped. She broke free from Hamza's grip and ran forward, screaming. Zara, desperate, crying out no. The knife raised high. Ion's eyes lifted to hers, love, pain, and defiance all shining in them. The blade began to fall. And then, darkness. Narrator's voice, tense, breathless. Love had dared to defy the cage. But freedom always comes at a price. In the dead of night, at the lonely railway station, a blade cut through the silence. Was it the end of love, or the beginning of sacrifice? When love bleeds, it writes its story in scars. That night, at the abandoned railway station, love was written in blood. The blade falls. The knife came down fast. Ion, half conscious but still burning with love, twisted his body at the last second. Instead of piercing his chest, the blade slashed deep into his shoulder. He cried out in pain, collapsing onto the ground, blood soaking his shirt. Zara, screaming Ion. She ran to him, falling to her knees, her hands trembling as she pressed against the wound. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with his blood. Zara, sobbing, stay with me. Please, Ion, stay with me. Ion gritted his teeth, lifting his hand weakly to touch her face. Ion, hoarse, whispering, even if I die tonight, remember, Zara, my love never will. Saad's cruelty. Saad stepped forward slowly, clapping mockingly again. Saad, cold, mocking, how dramatic. The poor boy bleeding for love. But don't worry, Zara. Once he's gone, you'll forget him. You'll have no choice. Zara turned to him, her face transformed, her eyes blazing through her tears. Zara, furious, screaming, I will never belong to you, Saad. Even if you kill me, my heart will never be yours. For the first time, Saad's smirk faltered. Rage twisted across his face. Saad, roaring, then I'll destroy him completely, right here, in front of you. He pulled a gun from his coat, aiming it directly at Ion's head. Hamza's bravery. Before Saad could pull the trigger, Hamza jumped in front of him, spreading his arms wide. Hamza, shouting no. If you want to hurt him, you'll have to shoot me first. Zara gasped. Zara, screaming, Hamza, no. Saad's men grabbed the boy, dragging him aside roughly. Saad glared, lowering his gun slightly but his fury only growing. Saad, snarling, you think you can defy me, Zara? You think love makes you brave? Fine. Let's see how brave you are when you lose him forever. The twist of fate. Before Saad could fire, headlights flashed suddenly across the platform. A car pulled in. Zara's father stepped out, shocked by the scene before him. Father, furious, shouting, what is happening here? Everyone froze. Saad quickly hid the gun behind him, putting on his mask of innocence. Saad, smoothly, uncle, thank God you're here. I caught Zara trying to run away with this man. He attacked us when we tried to stop him. Zara shook her head violently, tears streaming. Zara, desperate, pleading, no, Abba. That's a lie. Saad tried to kill him. He's the one trapping me. Her father looked between them, confusion and anger battling in his eyes. A father's dilemma. Zara's father stood torn. He had always trusted Saad, but seeing his daughter on her knees, covered in blood, clutching Ion's body, it broke something inside him. Father, shaken Zara, is this true? Do you really love him? Zara looked into his eyes, her voice raw, her soul laid bare. Zara, whispering, firm yes, Abba. With every breath in me. And I will never love anyone else. Silence fell. Even Saad's men shifted uncomfortably. Saad's fury returns. Saad's mask cracked completely. He stepped forward, his voice trembling with rage. Saad, roaring, she's mine. Do you hear me? Mine. If I can't have her, no one will. He raised the gun again, aiming at both Zara and Ion. Zara screamed, shielding Ion with her own body. Zara, crying out, then you'll have to kill me too. Narrator's voice, tense, emotional. Blood on the floor, love on its knees, and a gun pointed at destiny. At that railway station, hearts were tested by fire. And the choice between love and death was only a breath away. When love stands at gunpoint, silence cannot save, it is truth and courage that break the chains. The gun at midnight. The cold barrel of Saad's gun pointed directly at Zara and Ayan. The silence of the abandoned station was deafening, broken only by Zara's sobs and Ayan's weak breaths. Saad, roaring, unhinged. If I can't have you, Zara, no one will. I'll erase him, and I'll erase your love. He cocked the gun. Zara's father froze, his hands trembling. For years, he had thought Saad was their family's protector, a good man for his daughter. But in this moment, all he saw was a monster. Father, shouting, shaken Saad. Put the gun down. This is madness. But Saad's eyes burned with obsession. Saad, snarling, stay out of this, uncle. She is mine. Zara's defiance. Zara tightened her grip on Ayan, her voice rising like fire. Zara, screaming through tears, I will never be yours, Saad. Not in this life, not in any life. My heart belongs to Ayan, and it always will. Her words cut sharper than any knife. For the first time, Saad's hand shook, his obsession battling against her rejection. The father steps forward. Zara's father slowly stepped between Saad and the couple, his voice trembling but firm. Father, angrily, Saad, enough. You have lied, deceived, and now you threaten my daughter's life? I will not let you destroy her happiness. Saad's eyes widened. Saad, disbelieving, furious, uncle, you're choosing him? Over me? After everything I've done for your family? Father, coldly, a man who destroys love is no protector. You're nothing but a tyrant. The trigger. Enraged, Saad pushed the father aside and pulled the trigger. Bang! The shot rang through the night. Zara screamed, Ayan's body jerked, but then, a second figure stumbled. Hamza. He had thrown himself forward at the last second, the bullet grazing his arm. He fell, clutching it, crying out in pain. Zara, horrified. Hamza. Saad's men faltered, shocked. Even they hadn't expected this madness. Ayan's stand. With blood still pouring from his shoulder, Ayan somehow pushed himself up. His body shook, but his eyes blazed with something stronger than pain, love and fury. He stepped in front of Zara again, facing Saad. Ayan, hoarse, but powerful, you can kill me, Saad. But you'll never kill what's in her heart. And that's what you can't stand, that her love for me is stronger than all your power. Zara's father moved beside Ayan, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. For the first time, Ayan was not standing alone. Saad's fall. Saad's rage reached its peak. He aimed the gun again, but suddenly, police sirens wailed in the distance. The light of approaching vehicles cut through the station's darkness. Saad's men panicked and ran, leaving him standing alone with the gun shaking in his hand. Zara's father had called the police before leaving home. The officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Officer, commanding, drop the gun, Saad. For a moment, Saad looked around wildly, like a cornered beast. His pride, his obsession, everything slipped away. Then, with a scream, he tried to raise the gun again. But the officers tackled him to the ground, wrenching the weapon from his hands. His shouts echoed, bitter and broken, as he was dragged away in handcuffs. Saad, screaming, Zara. You'll regret this. You'll regret choosing him. His voice faded as the police van swallowed him into the night. Love in ruins. The station was silent once more, except for Zara's sobs as she cradled Ayan's head against her chest. Blood still seeped from his wound, his breaths shallow. Zara, whispering, breaking, stay with me, Ayan. Please, don't leave me now. Not when we're finally free. Ayan's lips curved into a faint, weak smile. Ayan, softly, free, because of you. Because you believed in us. Her tears fell on his face like blessings. Narrator's voice, heavy, emotional. The chains had broken. Love had spoken, louder than fear, louder than blood. But freedom always demands a price, and that price was not yet paid in full. Love had fought, bled, and broken its chains. But as dawn crept over the railway station, love also stood at the edge of life and death. The rush to save Ion. The police had taken Saad away, but Zara's world remained frozen around Ion's bleeding body. Zara, sobbing, shaking him, please, Ion. Don't close your eyes. Stay with me, just a little longer. Her father, shaken to his core, knelt beside her. His voice trembled, guilt heavy in his tone. Father, whispering, it's my fault. I trusted the wrong man. But not anymore. We'll get him to the hospital, Zara. He'll survive. He shouted for the officers, and within minutes, Ion was lifted into the police jeep, sirens wailing as they sped toward the city. Zara sat inside, holding his hand tightly, whispering prayers through her tears. The hospital hours. The night stretched into morning as doctors fought to save him. Zara paced the hospital corridor, her dupatta soaked in his blood, her eyes swollen from crying. Hamza, his arm bandaged, sat quietly beside her. Their father stood in silence, lost in regret. Finally, after hours that felt like lifetimes, the doctor emerged. Doctor, calmly, he's weak, but stable. He'll need rest, care, and time, but he's a fighter. Zara collapsed into tears of relief, whispering thanks to God. A father's realization. Later that day, Zara's father entered Ion's hospital room. Zara sat by the bed, holding Ion's hand while he slept. Her father looked at the boy he had once dismissed, a poet, a dreamer, a nobody. Yet this same boy had risked his life for his daughter without hesitation. Father, softly, breaking Zara, forgive me. I thought I was protecting you. But I was only caging you. Love is not a prison, it is freedom. If Ion is the one you choose, then I will stand by your choice. Zara's eyes filled with tears, her heart finally unburdened. She kissed her father's hand with trembling lips. Zara, whispering, thank you, Abba, you've given me back my life. The last promise. When Ion woke, Zara was still there, her head resting on his arm, her eyes closed in exhaustion. He gently touched her hair, whispering weakly, Ion, you stayed. Her eyes fluttered open, and she smiled through her tears. Zara, softly always. Even if the whole world stood against us, I'd stay. He took her hand, his grip weak but full of meaning. Ion, smiling faintly, then promise me, Zara, no matter what comes, no matter how hard life gets, you'll never stop believing in us. Her eyes glistened as she pressed his hand to her heart. Zara, firmly, I promise. Even if one day you're not here, Ion, your love will live in me forever. Epilogue, Love Beyond Fear. Weeks later, Ion recovered slowly. Saad was sentenced for his crimes, vanishing from their lives like a storm that had finally passed. Zara and Ion's love was no longer a secret whispered in the dark. It was spoken openly, proudly, with her family's blessing. But the scars of that night remained, not as wounds, but as reminders that love is not easy. It is tested by fire, by sacrifice, by pain. And only those who hold on survive its storms. Final narration. Narrator's voice, soft, emotional. Some stories end in heartbreak, some in hope. But the greatest stories end in truth, that love is not about escaping the world, but facing it together. Zara and Ion's journey was not perfect, not easy, but it was real. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything.